Welcome back to another video on the GCSE Physics Paper 2 topic of forces, and in this lesson we're going to look at Newton's third law of motion. Before we start, remember the top tips for getting the most out of these lessons. Do not have any web pages or windows open that will distract you. Answer all of the questions, they will help to make sure you understand the new content. Switch off your phone, or at least have it in a different room, it's the biggest distraction you've got. And finally, try to complete the lesson in one session. It will really help you to understand what has been covered. The plan for this lesson, as always, we'll start with some retrieval practice. We know we need to go over previous topics to make sure we don't forget anything. We'll have a look at the new concept of Newton's third law of motion. You'll have some time to embed the new key concept before it's your chance to have a go and develop your understanding with some practice work. What you're going to need is a mini whiteboard or a pen and some paper, possibly some revision cards for the retrieval, an exercise book or notepad to write down the new content, a mini whiteboard, pen and paper, or someone who can quiz you for the embedding, and an exercise book or notepad for you to complete the practice work. Pause the video and get yourself organised. Let's start with some retrieval practice. First retrieval slide, pause the video and answer the questions on some paper or a mini whiteboard. Here are the answers. Any you couldn't answer or weren't sure about, you should write down on revision cards or in a notebook so you can go back over them later. Pause the video and do that now. Second retrieval slide, pause the video and give these questions a go. Here are the answers. Make sure you pause and write down the ones that you weren't sure about. Final retrieval slides to help you remember what's been covered in the previous lessons. Pause and have a go. Again, here are the answers. Pause and write down the ones you struggled with. On to the new content. You'll need an exercise book or notepad so you can write down the questions and answers as they appear on the screen. You'll need these for the embedding part of the lesson later on. Pause and get yourself organised. So we're looking at Newton's third law today. What is Newton's third law? When two objects interact, the forces they exert on each other are equal and opposite. Newton's third law tells us that when two objects interact, the forces they exert on each other are equal in size but opposite in direction. This is quite simple to understand if you think about a table with an object sitting on it, such as a book. We know gravity is pulling this book downwards. So there's a force caused by gravity that's pulling the book down into the table. But the book's just sat on the table, it's not going anywhere. So there must be another force that's counteracting the force of gravity. So there must be a force pushing upwards with the same size. Newton's third law tells us that forces are equal in size but opposite in direction. This is fine when we've got a situation where the objects aren't moving, but if I was to tell you that when a fly is hit by a car and it splatters all over the windscreen, that fly has hit the car with the same amount of force as the car hit the fly with, you'd think I was crazy. So when we've got moving objects, it becomes a little bit more complicated to understand. So let's imagine we've got a brick wall, and then next to the brick wall we've got someone who's stood on a skateboard. That person is going to push this wall, and let's say they push them with 20 newtons. If you push a wall with 20 newtons, the wall, according to Newton's third law, will push you back on you with the same force, 20 newtons. Two objects, the skateboarder and the wall, interacting, they're touching, and the forces they exert are equal in size but opposite in direction. This isn't entirely true for the situation though, because that skateboarder, when they push a wall, is going to move in this direction. We know from life experience. So if they're going to move in this direction, there must be a force counteracting that, which is friction, and the friction acts in the opposite direction to movement, and let's just say that's 20 newtons as well. So let's have a look at our numbers. We know that we've got to add up forces acting in the same direction and then take away forces acting in opposite directions. So we've got 20 and 20 acting left and then 20 acting right. So we've got 40 left, 20 right. So that means, if what we know about forces is true, that this skateboarder, if they push the wall with 20 newtons, they're going to move towards the wall. Well, that's not true. We know, just through life experience, that that is not right. So let's think about this situation again, but we're going to change the numbers slightly to make it easier to understand. So we've got our skateboarder once again. But this time they're going to push the wall slightly harder. They're going to push with 40 newtons. If they push the wall with 40 newtons, according to Newton's third law of motion, the wall will push back with 40 newtons. We've still got friction to take into account, and the friction resists the motion, and we know through life experience we're going to go that way, and that's still 20 newtons. If I add up all my numbers again, I've got 20 and 40 acting left, that's 60, and then 40 acting in the opposite direction. I've still got 20 newtons acting left, but we're confusing Newton's third law with Newton's first and second law. Newton's first and second laws look at objects in isolation and the forces being exerted on them. So when the skateboarder pushes the wall with 40 newtons, that then has no impact on their movement except for the fact that 40 newtons pushes backwards. So now I can work out a resultant force here. 40 newtons acting to the right, 20 newtons acting to the left. I've got a resultant force of 20 newtons acting in this direction. Now it's your chance to embed those key concepts. You can use the look, cover, write, check method, or get someone to ask you the questions and you can tell them the answer. Pause the video and do this now. Now it's time for you to practice using that new concept. Pause the video and open up your exercise book or notepad. Here are 6 questions to get you to apply the concept of Newton's third law. Pause the video and give them a go. Here are the answers. Pause the video and check your answer. And another 6 questions for you to practice with. Pause the video and have a go. Here are the answers. Once again, check your answers and make any corrections. That's all for this lesson. Make sure you go back over all the concepts from this lesson, including the retrieval practice, in order to develop your long-term memory. And I will see you next time.